Welcome everyone, you are watching the very first video in our Modulus Beginner's Guide to Unreal Engine 4 and eventually 5 when it releases early next year. This video specifically will be for those brand new to the engine, who have never used Unreal but maybe have some dreams of starting their own game development journey. So let's do it. These are your first 10 minutes in Unreal Engine. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to the Unreal Engine tab. For those of you familiar with the Epic Games store and library, you might have seen this Unreal Engine button here. So let's click through that. And that should bring you here to your library. And we're going to be looking for engine versions 4.26, 0.27, maybe even 4.28, depending on when you're watching this. But make sure to get one of these installed. Let's not do Unreal Engine 5 just yet. That'll be early next year. It's in early access right now. So let's make sure we're on 0.26, 0.27, something like that, and get that installed. And then click that launch button or find the icon on your desktop here and give that a click and get it loaded up. So on launch, the first thing we're going to see is a select or create new project. You'll see I have a couple of projects already up here, but we're going to be focused on games. So click through on next here. And this is the great thing about Unreal is that they give beginners templates for all types of games. You got first person, puzzle, top down, some side scroller type things, but we're going to focus on third person, and the third person project is also going to serve as a springboard for the rest of our videos. So from here we're going to click next, and this is going to be the most important part, is that you make sure this is selected on blueprint, and we'll get into what blueprints are specifically, but make sure that one's selected with blueprints. The other couple don't matter except for here with starter content. We want to make sure that it comes with the starter content. Unreal provides some great early things for beginners and for new projects, so make sure starter content is selected here. And then let's go ahead and name the project Tutorial Video 1. Go ahead and click create, and that will start it up and give it a couple seconds to load up fully. And then once it's in, you're going to notice this third person example map. So this is where the template starts you and gives you some decent content to start with. Your screen might not look exactly like this, like your content browser might be down here. I'm not exactly sure where yours will be, but maybe pause the video here and make sure you have everything that I'm seeing on my screen. The most important parts are going to be the content browser. Obviously your map will be open, and then over here world outliner and place actors. So these are the four windows: the map, the content browser, world outliner, and place actors. They might not be exactly where you see them on my screen, but just make sure they're all there. One of the early struggles, one of the earliest things to learn is controls within Unreal Engine. If you're used to WSA&D games in general and some third-person games in general, it might not be too difficult, but still it's going to be an early learning curve for you. One of the big things is you're going to right-click and hold right-click to take full access of the camera. So if you hold right-click on any part of the map, you'll notice that you now can look around. You can also zoom in and out with WSA&D, fly around on all axes. So that's going to take a while to get just used to feeling comfortable moving around exactly how you want in the level. And like I said, this is the third person example map. So you have these things like early content. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and delete the question mark. Delete this character, and we'll leave this one here. This is where the player's start will be. If you click world outliner, you'll notice that anything you click on highlights in the world outliner over here. So if I click this stair, you now have the stair selected. So just go ahead and pause the video and get used to flying around the map with WSA&D, holding right click again, and just get used to that. The next thing we're going to work on, and it's also going to take some getting used to if you're not familiar with this type of interface, is moving objects around. So if we clicked the stairs. So now grab the green arrow and you can move it left and right, and don't worry about that shadow it left behind. We'll worry about that some other time. But these three axes arrows are how you're going to move objects. So if you grab the point where the red and the green arrow intersect the Y and the X axis, you can now move it forward and back, left and right. But if you just grab one of the axes, the only movement that it will allow is on that plane. So this is super important for if you're trying to do something very precise and you don't want it to necessarily have variance left and right. You can do this, but it'll only move in that direction. Same with up and down. Obviously there's going to be times where you just want to move something literally just up and not out to the side at all. You could do that. But like I said, if you grab the intersection, you can move it around the two planes that you've grabbed at, and you can notice that by if the two arrows turn yellow. Get that, we can place that back here. The next thing I want to show that's important for a beginner is going to be these three options up here, these three toggleable buttons. So right now we're in this mode where we can move it. Let's go ahead and move it out away from the other things. Your next option is going to be a rotate, and so now we can rotate it along these 3 points. So right here we're moving it, rotating it as you would if you just want to change the direction it's facing. Here you can tip it up and down, and then here we can turn it to its side. This is going to be super helpful for building worlds. Next one is scaling. So it's exactly how it sounds. If you want to stretch it this way, you can do that. If you want to go wider, you can do that. And if you want to go up and down, you can do that. But most importantly, if you grab this white intersection, you can do it 100% in all 3 axes at the same ratio that it was before, so that you're literally just shrinking it. Again, pause the video, grab a couple things, move it around. The hotkeys here are W. If you grab an object and hit W, it'll switch to this move phase. If you do E, you're going to rotate it, and if you hit R, it'll allow you to scale it. And so get comfortable using W, E, and R by selecting different objects. W moving it, E rotating it, R scaling it. Now the last thing we're going to work on, I'm going to show you a very helpful trick up here is, so say you're moving it and you want it to be very precise. This is how you snap objects. So if you click this button, it's going to unsnap it, so it's going to move very fluidly. If you enable the snapping, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to move it in a 10 centimeter increment, in 10 centimeter increments. So if we click this 10 and move it to 50, we're now doing it a ½ meter every move. Now this has some obvious applications. If you hold Alt, we're going to duplicate that and drag it to the right, and that's another important tip is holding Alt will allow you to duplicate an object. But if you have snapping enabled, you'll be able to hit it perfectly on the side, whereas if snapping is disabled, you have to really zoom in and kind of figure out exactly. So anytime you're trying to do something precise, you're going to want to have this snapping grid on. Same thing for rotating. So say we want to rotate this and we want to rotate it exactly 90 degrees to the right. Well, that's really easy if snapping's on. So if we want to do a perfect, say you're leading stairs up to a castle or something, you want to have a perfect 90 degree angle here, we're gonna want this snapping grid on, because if it's off, you can rotate it, but you have to make sure you get down to the granular level of exactly 90 degrees. And it's pretty difficult. So the way you do that is make sure snapping is enabled. Then you're freely allowed to snap things in 90 degree angles. Same thing for scaling. So if we go here and we scale fluidly without snapping enabled, you can get very granular, very precise to how you want it to look in the world. And if snapping is on, you're kind of limited. So any type of design detail work, you might want snapping disabled so that you can get it exactly how you want, where you want it. Same thing for moving things like details, or if you're putting ivy on a wall and you don't want it to necessarily snap, it's going to be important to disable snap up here and do the thing you want to do. But so this video is just here getting you in the example level, comfortable moving around. So just play with this, move things, rotate things, and scale things up as you want, and save that project, because this is going to be the project that we continue on for the rest of our series. So we'll see you in the next video.